Okay, let me shift to this. Let's talk about Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. So, tough loss for the Ravens this past week. They lost in Week 10 of the 2020 season versus the New England Patriots on the road, 17-23. And by the way, before I dive into Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, that was a great win for the Patriots. You know, the Patriots, they've really struggled, throughout the first half of the season, but I think they're starting to get back on track. They're on a 2-game winning streak. They do get Houston this week. That game is on the road. Playing Deshaun Watson on the road is always tough, whether he has a great team or not. So that's a toss-up game, but I think New England could win that game. Don't sleep on the New England Patriots making a playoff push late in the season. That's all I'm going to say about that. But, the Patriots won the game, and the Ravens obviously lost. And all I've been hearing after that loss is, oh, man, Lamar Jackson stinks. He was the sole reason the Ravens lost. Lamar Jackson clearly has regressed. He's not that accurate. He's overrated. Timeout. Actually, I think Lamar Jackson in that game played pretty well. I think he really did. He obviously didn't play the most perfect game. The Ravens did lose the football game, but for the most part, Lamar Jackson put the Ravens in position to win that football game. I'm sorry. That's my takeaway. He completed 71% of his passes, had 300 total yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 98 passer rating. That's pretty good. He did throw 1 interception that game, but that was the final play before the half. He was taking a shot down the field. Maybe the Baltimore Ravens get in field goal range. Maybe they don't. He was just trying to take a shot down the field. I don't put that interception on Lamar Jackson. And listen, there's no doubt about it that Lamar Jackson had an unbelievable season last year. He led the league in touchdown passes. He broke the single-season rushing record. He was phenomenal. But I think because Lamar Jackson set the bar so high, our expectations for him had become a little unrealistic. And I think a lot of people captivated Lamar Jackson into that Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers tier, the tier of elite quarterbacks. And listen, I think Lamar Jackson's fantastic, but I did not have him, touted as a better quarterback than those 3 guys. Those 3 guys are clearly the elite of the elite. They're the best of the best. Lamar Jackson is not as good as those 3 quarterbacks. But Lamar Jackson is for sure in that next tier, okay? And I've watched every single Lamar Jackson game this year, and I can blame one game solely on Lamar Jackson for why the Baltimore Ravens lost. For those of you that don't know, Baltimore heading into Week 11 is 6-3 on the season, 6-3 through 9 games. They have 3 losses, and Lamar Jackson, I can really only put 1 loss on him, the Pittsburgh Steelers loss. If you want to put the Pittsburgh Steelers loss on Lamar Jackson, got no problem with you doing that because you should. He was awful in that game. He was not very good. But outside of that loss, Lamar Jackson has been very, very consistent this year. He's not putting up the MVP numbers that he put up last season, but I think the narrative that Lamar Jackson is regressing before our own eyes in 2020, I think that narrative is overblown. I really do. I don't think Lamar Jackson is regressing. I think Lamar Jackson is having a very good season. Keep in mind, people, Lamar Jackson, through 31 career starts, is 25-6, 25 wins, 6 losses. If you take away 3 games in which he played versus Patrick Mahomes, he's 25-3 during the regular season. And I don't care what anyone says, your job as an NFL quarterback is to go out there and win football games. It's not your job to go out there and set touchdown records. It's not your job to go out there and please the fans. Your job is to go out there and win football games. And Lamar Jackson, he passes that test with flying colors. The Ravens, they're still a very good team. Can we acknowledge that Pittsburgh is just better? Pittsburgh has the better wide receiver core. They've got a better head coach. As good as John Harbaugh is, I'm taking Mike Tomlin over John Harbaugh. Pittsburgh has the better team this year. Baltimore is not the best team in their division. In fact, their division is very competitive. Cleveland's pretty good. Cincinnati, while flawed, they're on the rise. There are not very many teams better than Pittsburgh. Some years, you're just going to have to throw in the towel and say, hey, a team in our division is better than us. And so far this year, Pittsburgh is better than Baltimore. Ben Roethlisberger's come back, and Baltimore's organization is going to have to realize that, hey, listen, last year Ben Roethlisberger was hurt. We kind of got, A lot of breaks that went our way. We need to reboot. We need to retool our roster. Let's do that going forward. But the idea that Lamar Jackson sucks or he's bad, he can't win big games, I don't buy it. Now, I will say Lamar Jackson still needs to answer the bell in the 2020 NFL playoffs because his first two playoff games have been awful. He's not played good. Eventually, Lamar Jackson is going to have to put up or shut up in the playoffs. He cannot continue to shrink under pressure in the playoffs. So all eyes will be on Lamar Jackson this year. And let's be real, the Baltimore Ravens, they're a very talented team. Do I think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year? No, they're not. Probably not. But they're a team that has Super Bowl caliber talent. So Lamar Jackson will have to answer the bell in the playoffs. But right now, I got to ask you guys this question. Who do you want over Lamar Jackson outside of Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, and Aaron Rodgers? Deshaun Watson? Maybe. Kyler Murray? Maybe. Ben Roethlisberger? Maybe. I think he has a better wide receiver core than Lamar Jackson. He's more experienced. But I think Lamar Jackson can elevate a team much better than Ben Roethlisberger. Let's not forget that Ben Roethlisberger last year was sitting on the bench was sitting on the sideline due to injury. His team still went 8-8. Do you really think the Baltimore Ravens are going to go 8-8 if Lamar Jackson misses games? Lamar Jackson is the heart and soul to that Baltimore Ravens offense. Are you taking Drew Brees or Tom Brady over Lamar Jackson? I know I'm not. Maybe come playoff time I might, but if I'm starting my franchise with a quarterback, I'm taking the guy that just led the league in touchdown passes, a guy that has a very good arm, a guy that still could get better and better. Meanwhile, Brady and Brees can't move anymore. They're 40-plus years old, and they peaked. They're no longer the same quarterbacks. They can't escape a sack. Drew Brees can't throw the ball down the field anymore. Tom Brady, when pressured, is awful. Now, I will say, I don't like the fact that Lamar Jackson called out his offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, this past week on the Rich Eisen show. Lamar Jackson said our play calling has become very predictable. NFL defenses have figured out what we're trying to do. So listen, Greg Roman, he's got to pivot. I don't like the fact that Lamar Jackson said that. But outside Lamar Jackson saying that comment and the fact that Lamar Jackson has not shown up in the playoffs, he's pretty much answered every single bell that you've wanted him to answer. And we talk about Lamar Jackson potentially regressing. Let's talk about Marquise Hollywood Brown not playing very well this year. Let's talk about Mark Andrews continuing to disappear in big games. Let's talk about the offensive line not playing as well as they played last year and missing Marshall Yanda. Let's talk about those things before we blame Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is fine. He's got a very stable organization. He's still one of the 5 to 7 best quarterbacks in all of football. He's dynamic, he's special, and he has a great work ethic. He's going to continue to get better and better, hopefully. Maybe Lamar Jackson peaks, that's fine, but if Lamar Jackson doesn't get any better, you mean to tell me you can't win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson if you get some breaks to bounce your way in the playoffs? Guys, we've seen Nick Foles, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jared Goff get to Super Bowls. Lamar Jackson is more talented than all those guys. Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl playing awful. He was awful in 2015 or 2016, whatever year he won the Super Bowl in his final year with Denver. Lamar Jackson is more than capable. He will have to answer the bell in the playoffs, but the narrative of Lamar Jackson is regressing, at least in 2020. I think that narrative is overblown, and we need to slow down just a tad bit. That's all I'm saying. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God-blessed day, and I'm out.